The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to the national launch of the Food Systems Leadership Network. Thank you all so much for joining us today. This is Susan Lightfoot Schempf speaking. I am a program officer with the Wallace Center's Community-Based Food Systems team, and I'm streaming in today from Little Rock, Arkansas with my colleagues Andrew Carberry, Annalena Kazikas, and Jeff Farbman. We are delighted to have over 700 registrants for this webinar, representing all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and even some neighbors up in Canada. We have a very strong representation of nonprofit organizations, and we're also joined by educators, policymakers, farmers, funders, and of course, all you eaters. So thank you all so much for being here today. So before we get rolling, I want to give a quick overview of what we'll be covering in the webinar today. I'll start with a quick technical overview of the webinar, and then provide some information about the Wallace Center and why we're starting this new community of practice. I'll give a high-level overview of the Food Systems Leadership Network, and then Andrew will dive deeper into the details of the various services and opportunities that will be available through this network. Annalena will then give us a quick tour of the interactive online community of practice that we've developed for this initiative, and we'll highlight a few upcoming opportunities, and then have a good bit of time at the end for question and answer. All right, I want to give you a very brief technical introduction to this software to help you get the most out of your webinar experience today. We have a lot of time in Q&A at the end, as I said, and we want you to know exactly how to ask questions of us. So your webinar screen looks like this. You've got a slide presentation on the left and then your control panel on the right. Note that the software sometimes collapses the control panel to make it take up less of your screen. So if that happens, just hit the little orange arrow up in there, the right corner, top right corner, and you can expand the control panel. We also suggest that you keep that visible so that you can see any written answers to your questions, and also submit questions of your own. In the control panel, you can select the View menu and then deselect Auto Control Panel in the View menu to prevent the panel from collapsing again. Also over in the control panel is a questions box. You are muted during the presentation, so please use the questions box to type in your questions for us. I encourage you to get your questions in there as they occur to you throughout the presentation. And also keep in mind that this webinar will be recorded and archived on our website, so don't stress if you need to jump out early or if you missed something. And finally, I really encourage you all to please complete our post-webinar survey. It'll take just a minute and really helps us to continue to improve our webinars and our outreach for this project. So without further ado, I want to talk a little bit about the Wallace Center. I think many of you are familiar with us, but for those of you who aren't, the Wallace Center is a national organization that supports communities and entrepreneurs in building a new 21st century food system that is healthier for people, the planet, and our economy. We focus on systems change and engage and partner with people from all points on the good food value chain. We generally focus on market-based solutions while recognizing that market systems alone have failed to solve issues of access to and availability of healthy, affordable, and sustainably produced food, especially in historically underserved and disinvested communities. And that's really where a lot of our work around community-based food systems comes in. We strongly believe in the value of facilitating peer-to-peer learning and networking, as we know that there is immense knowledge and expertise among all of you listening in today. We bring people together for capacity building, training, and technical assistance opportunities, and identify and lift up promising models and innovations. And we also like to work collaboratively with you to develop knowledge about local and regional food systems development, and then share out that knowledge at the national level. For the past 10 or so years, the Wallace Center has been providing technical assistance to community-based organizations who are focused on building equitable health, wealth, connection, and capacity in their communities through local and regional food systems. We do this through the same kinds of approaches that I previously described, by bringing people together to learn from each other and develop knowledge together. And you can see in that bottom picture on the right, that's from a site visit that we did this past year with a host of organizations from across the country that are providing direct support to farmers in communities across the country, and that was at the Intervale Center up in Vermont. And we've done a lot of projects like this over the years. And one of our key partners in this work has been the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and its community of grantees across the U.S., as well as the USDA and other national funders. Some of you may be familiar with some of the knowledge products that we've generated out of this work, including the From the Ground Up report that we released this last year, and the Healthy Urban Food Enterprise Development project and report is pictured up there on the right, among others. And through this work, we've learned a lot about community-based nonprofits that are working on food systems transformation. And really all this work is leading us up to this launch today. It's really helped us to understand the unique needs and interests of this community and to kind of increase our services in the interest of the larger good food movement. So what have we learned? In general, we see and have experienced that community-based organizations face a lot of the same kinds of challenges. They're generally small, operating on very tight budgets, and are stretched thin, trying to address the growing needs in their communities. Many of them are strained at the operation and management levels. Not enough staff, not enough resource, and too many things to do. It is hard running a small nonprofit. Trust me, I know from personal experience. And passion alone can't keep us going in this work. Community-based organizations also have to navigate really similar dynamics and systems as they're doing this work, including interpersonal and intra-institutional racism and exclusion from entrenched systems of power, resources, and privilege. But despite all that, these organizations persist, and they are creative and nimble and innovative and developing brilliant and effective programs and partnerships that really do make a difference every day in communities across the country. Y'all are some busy people, and you impress us on the daily with all that you get done. And in general, your access to information and opportunity is limited by time, by lack of resources, by entrenched power structures that are blockades to especially organizations that are led by people of color or based in communities of color from being able to access resource information and opportunity. Some organizations are just limited by plain old geography. When you're 5 hours from the nearest airport, getting to a national conference is easier said than done. So all of this is to say that we have a strong community, a group of people across the country who share a similar practice, passion, and concern, who are really eager to learn from each other and connect with one another, to build knowledge and develop solutions towards a common goal of creating more equitable, inclusive, vital local food systems and communities. So what we have is a community of practice. So without further ado, that brings us to the Food Systems Leadership Network. This is a new national community of practice for staff and leaders of nonprofit, community-based organizations working on food systems change. And we are honing in on systems leadership development, which is the ability to catalyze collective leadership and community transformation, recognizing that nonprofit staff are called to provide this kind of leadership not only in their organizations, but also within their communities and their local and regional food systems. We're also focusing in on strengthening the operational and management capacity of nonprofits, recognizing that strong and healthy organizations produce healthy fruit in our communities. This network will also provide a space for sharing program innovations and approaches, and provide a platform for lesser known organizations to share out their work at the national level. And finally, this is really about connecting, supporting, celebrating, and investing in the diverse organizations and individuals that are working on food systems transformation in the United States. A couple of details here on this community of practice. First, while it is open to anyone working on food systems, including all of you who are listening in today, the content, services, and opportunities are tailored to food-focused nonprofit sector. There are multiple other networks and communities of practice led by others and other organizations with more expertise in those different topic areas. And this network is a response to a gap in support that is specific to the needs of nonprofits, and specifically around organizational effectiveness, leadership, and nonprofit management, and the kind of the nuts and bolts of running a food-focused nonprofit. Secondly, you must be a 501c3 nonprofit or umbrellaed by one to be able to benefit from the services of this network. And we'll be giving priority support to emerging leaders, people of color, and historically excluded communities. This initiative is about increasing access to opportunity, and these partners deserve support. There is no cost for membership in this network. And finally, just really want to make this note that we're in this for the long haul and are grateful for the support for the W.K. Kellogg Foundation for helping us to get this going. And we also invite other funders and donors and partners to join us in keeping this work moving forward for the long term. So I've spent a lot of time over these past couple of years really talking with you and getting an understanding of the kind of support that you're looking for, and really the values and principles that are important to this community of practitioners. And we've spent time in this last year really trying to figure out the most effective ways to support and serve you, and this is what we've come up with. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Andrew, who's going to talk about the various services and opportunities that will be available to network members. Andrew, take it away.
All right, thank you, Susan. Hi, everybody. This is Andrew speaking, and I'm just going to run through the services that we offer, which are mentorships, mini grants, scholarships, nonprofit boot camp, and our leadership series. The first service I'll talk about is the Community Food Systems Mentorship Program, which seeks to provide emerging leaders with the opportunity to closely engage with more seasoned leaders as thought partners and coaches. The goal of this program is to create a space for experienced leaders to lend an ear to emerging leaders and share their wisdom, knowledge, and expertise from years of practice in the good food movement. The process to apply for this will be to access the application through the Food Systems Leadership Network platform, which is open starting today until February 15th. Once applications are in, Wallace staff and the mentors will work together to select mentees for the first round. Mentees will then be able to work one-on-one with their mentor for 8 hours starting this March until May, and they can structure their work the best way that's fit for them. The mentors have a lot of experience doing this with other groups and will be able to structure the best way for mentees. So it's flexible. The 8 hours can be phone calls, could be research or connections that the mentors provide to their mentees based on their assessment. So without any more delay, I want to introduce the mentors. We're really excited to have this group. This mentor cohort represents some of the most extraordinary and dedicated individuals in this movement. They're all seasoned leaders and sought this opportunity out as a way to connect and give back to emerging leaders. You can learn more about each mentor, their work, and their areas of expertise by visiting their individual profile on the Food Systems Leadership platform. So I'll just briefly introduce them here, and I want to point out they have a wide range of expertise. I want to point out some examples, but I don't have time to get into all of them. I encourage you to view the rest on the platform. Amy Kincaid is the founder and managing director of Change Matters. Anupama Joshi is the executive director and co-founder of the National Farm to School Network and has expertise in program design and implementation, multi-stakeholder collaboration, and of course, network building. Malik Yakini is the executive director of the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. He has deep experience in community organizing with African Americans and developing self-determined, resilient, community-based food systems. Miles Gordon is the principal of Miles Gordon Consulting and has expertise in food systems development and strategic planning, working with bilingual and multicultural communities, and developing fundraising strategies. Jean Horzachevsky is the program director for the Fair Food Network in Michigan. Paula Daniels is the co-founder and chair of the Center for Good Food Purchasing. Angel Mendez is the director of operations for Red Tomato, and his expertise is in food hub operations, non-asset-based distribution networks, and value chain logistics. If you're interested in this program, I encourage you again to go and explore each mentor's profile on the Food Systems Leadership Network site and see which resonates with you and your interests. In the application, you'll select one mentor that you'd like to work with. This is a service that's really close to my heart. I've really benefited from mentors in the past, and I'm happy that we can create a space for this to happen for others. The goal is to create the time for you and the mentor to connect and to gain from their wisdom and experience. The next service I want to share is about our mini grants and scholarships. The purpose of this program is to invest in the leadership, technical, and professional skills of nonprofit staff. Building these skills requires us to take time away from daily operations and is often facilitated by outside help. These grants and scholarships are offered to increase access to opportunities for nonprofit staff. Providing this type of support is something we've seen to be of great value in working with nonprofit leadership and staff in the past, and we're excited to offer it more widely through this program. The process to access these mini grants and scholarships is to apply through the Food System Leadership Network platform by March 1st. The application again is open today for activities that would take place between April 1st and July 31st. There are two types of grants available. One is the Organizational Capacity Building Mini Grant, which is up to $1,000 per grant and is more for groups and for teams to use for consultant fees, team retreats, or all-staff trainings that are benefiting more of a group. The Professional Development Scholarships are geared towards individuals. These are up to $500 per scholarship, and those are to use to attend conferences, trainings, and workshops to offset the sometimes high cost of travel, registrations, and etc. for traveling to trainings that can be so valuable. The next service I want to talk about is our nonprofit boot camp. This spring, we'll offer the boot camp, a webinar series dedicated to improving the organizational capacity and effectiveness of nonprofit community-based organizations by digging deep into the strategic planning, fundraising, human resources, and finance and legal components of nonprofit management. These are things every nonprofit needs to master in order to best achieve their mission, but often they are overlooked when time and budgets are tight. We invite you to join any or all of these courses to learn from our teachers and through an interactive online community. The first course that will start in February is Demystifying Strategic Planning with Tamara Jones. She has a deep experience in helping food systems organizations develop and clarify their strategic plans. I was actually able to attend her strategic planning course at the Southern SOG conference last week and was really impressed by how simple she made the process seem. After having gone through planning processes and courses myself, she really made it crystal clear how you define and how you go through the process and make sure your plan doesn't sit on a shelf. In March, we'll have Fundraising Fundamentals with Diana Abalera. She has experience in resource development with organizations you might be familiar with, like People's Grocery in Oakland, California, and the Community Alliance with Family Farmers. In April, the course will be on Outcomes-Based HR. Peggy De Silva has expertise in HR and food businesses, from developing human resources systems for larger organizations with very complex operations like Veritable Vegetable to quick performance evaluation projects with smaller organizations. In May, the final course will be on Legal and Financial Essentials. Poppy Davis teaches, advises, and consults on business and policy issues affecting family-scale farms, ranches, and related associations across the country. She is also the Director of Entrepreneurship at the Indigenous Food and Agricultural Initiative at the University of Arkansas Law School. The structure of these courses will be 3 different lessons within each topic, which will be a webinar and presentation for 30 minutes, followed by a 1-hour office hours where you can discuss the content with the teacher and your peers. After you complete the course, you'll have the chance to work one-on-one with a course teacher on your individual needs and applying the course material to your organization. And again, this sign-up will be on the Food Systems Leadership Network under the Opportunities page. Finally, the Food Systems Leadership Retreats are 2.5 days of intense learning about the skills needed to foster collective leadership, to facilitate effective transformational dialogue, and to develop your systems leadership capacity. These will be a combination of trainings and workshops to learn new tools and deepen your knowledge of existing material, as well as learning journeys where you will visit local community-based organizations to practice and apply those learnings. Not only will the retreats help you to think differently about problems you and your organization might face, but they'll also connect you with other leaders of the good food movement. You can expect an intense few days, but you'll return to your organization with new tools, new relationships, and a fresh outlook. I had the privilege of participating in our pilot retreat in Detroit last fall, and it was a really transformative experience for me, including a learning journey to D-Town Farms, where you can see the picture here. We met with Malik and Karanji as they told about how they were building up their farm and their community. I'm still in touch with many of the other participants that were on the retreat as we all grow from our experience. The intense time in Detroit in sharing and learning new tools together created rapport that's helped us to share our own struggles and growth as we move forward. And this will be a part of the retreat, the future retreats as well, to provide ongoing support. The retreats will be designed and facilitated by 10 Circles, a new social enterprise dedicated to bringing the best in process approaches to issues of local economic development, revitalization of democratic institutions, and social, racial, and gender equity. The next retreat will be in New Orleans this June. We'd like to host another retreat in October in a rural location, and we're looking for suggestions for locations. If you have any ideas, or if you even would like to help us co-host in your community, please get in touch with us and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andrew. So as y'all can see, there's going to be some amazing opportunities available this year through the network. And we've also been working really hard to create a dynamic and interactive online platform to house this community of practice and really centralize our communications and opportunities, and also to empower members to connect with each other, share knowledge and resources, and collaboratively solve challenges that we're all facing as we do this work. So Annalena is going to give us a quick tour through the online community of practice. She has done a ton of the back-end work this year to make this site really user-friendly and really understands how it works. So Annalena, take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. We're super excited about this new initiative. So now that you've heard all about the services that the Food Systems Leadership Network will offer, I'll talk a little bit more about this platform that we've been working on that will really serve as the network's home base. So for this network, we focused on cultivating an online community of practice by offering you a space where you can connect with the fellow food systems practitioners, exchange knowledge, share resources, and really make new connections. Through our research and our continued engagement with many of you, and from our own personal experiences, we're constantly reminded that there is a wealth of knowledge and expertise within this movement and within the many community organizations that are making change. And while we're occasionally able to connect with one another at conferences, these events are limited and often expensive, as Susan was hinting at earlier. So we're excited to be able to offer you this platform that's conducive for year-round networking and collaboration, and where we can aggregate information and opportunities specific to your needs and interests as community-based organizations. So to begin with, I'll discuss how you can take advantage of this platform to tap into the collective wisdom of the community, and then provide you with some tips for getting started. So what you're seeing now is the main Food Systems Leadership Network homepage, and you'll be able to access this from the Wallace Center's website. If you're not on a screen right now, that site is wallacecenter.org/community-based food systems. And once you're here, you'll be able to sign up and log in each time. And upon logging in, you'll see a few different navigational tabs. There's an About sections, Stories, Discussion Groups, Opportunities, Services, and Members. And I'm not going to go into all of these, but there are a few that are particularly important to highlight. One of these is the Stories section. And this is sort of like the Facebook 2.0 for online communities of practice. By writing a short mini blog type post, you can use this space to tell us about your own achievements and experiences, lift up those of others, and share out interesting news or resources that you come across. A key feature here is the ability to illustrate your story with different media, like video or photo, or with supporting documents and resources. Members will be able to create a conversation around that story by commenting on it, asking questions, and exchanging ideas. You'll see that we've used this space to highlight our nonprofit bootcamp coaches, community food systems mentors, and to share some innovative food systems work that we've come across. We'll also be hosting a podcast series and a video blog series, and these will also be located in this stories section as well. So the second area of the online community of practice that I'd like to highlight is the discussion group section. And here we've created a few different groups organized by thematic area to encourage deeper, more focused conversations. Right now, these are equity and inclusion, nonprofit management and ops, program innovations, and systems leadership. Of course, we're open to hearing your ideas about additional discussion groups topics that you would find helpful going forward. And if you're interested in curating a group of your own, please definitely let us know. These groups can be made public or private, so there's definitely a lot of opportunity to develop out these features and make it work for your organization's needs. We invite you to join the discussion groups and dig deeper into a particular area, really drawing on that collective knowledge of the Food System Leadership Network members within the group, and to include relevant documents, files, links, etc., to the messages that you post. These will then all get sorted and stored within the group, so you can come back to it at a later date. A great example of how to use these discussion groups comes from a webinar that we hosted earlier this year with Ma'o Organic Farms. They're a fabulous community organization based in Hawaii, and they're working to restore the relationship between the land and people. Part of their focus is on youth development, and they've created some impactful leadership training programs and resources that during the webinar they had offered to circulate. So this program innovations group would be a perfect spot to share their experience developing these resources, connecting with others, and asking for additional support themselves. A third feature of this site that I'd like to highlight is the network map. This feature gives you a visual representation of the community of practice. So in addition to being able to search through the member registry and see who's in the network, there's this member map that allows you to see where members and organizations are located. We're really excited about this feature and are looking forward to seeing it grow. We really hope that it will encourage additional regional and localized network meetups. Susan's actually going to talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but I just wanted to touch on it briefly here. All right, so that sums up the key interactive features of the platform. Once you become a verified member, you'll also be able to access the opportunities and services pages, and that's where the different learning opportunities and services like mini grants and scholarships that were mentioned earlier will be located. All right, so at this point, I really hope that you recognize the value of becoming an FSLN member, and you'll be able to access this again by heading to the Community-Based Food Systems page on the Wallace Center's website. We'll be sending through that link in a chat later on, as well as via email at the end of the webinar. Before we get to that, though, I just want to share with you a couple of tips as you get started here. So once you register, you'll be required to answer a few onboarding questions, and then your request will get submitted for verification. Verification will occur within 24 hours of submission, and this is an important step for the Wallace Center to take in order to ensure that the community of practice does stay true to its purpose. During this window, when you have yet to become a fully verified member, you'll only be able to access the public pages, which are the About and Stories sections. However, you'll also be able to continue completing your profile, which we really hope that you do. And please note, though, that some of these profile components and questions are a little funky. There are certain features within this platform that we're unable to modify at the moment. So please bear with us when you come across these. We are working with the developers on some platform-wide enhancements. But until then, there just might be some questions that are not entirely clear or relevant. Some examples of these are that you might be asked for the number of hours you are available, your marital status, and your gender, and this information is not required, nor is it relevant for the FSLN. So we suggest that you just really concentrate on completing those questions that are relevant. And one area that we do recommend you complete during this process is the FSLN classification section. These classifications are super useful, and you'll see them time and again throughout the platform. They are those topics that are most relevant to you, and throughout the platform they become used as part of a tagging system. So as you create a story or as courses or events get posted, the creator will have the opportunity to tag it according to these classifications. That then allows the platform to match you to and notify you of relevant stories, courses, events, etc. as they become available. You'll also see them as different search functions under stories. These here are the main classification buttons, but there are additional drop-downs. All right, so speaking of notifications, and this is an important part, but as you are creating and modifying your profile, you'll be able to choose how often and when to get notified of certain activity on the FSLN. We definitely recommend that you spend some time looking through this, because the last thing we want you to do is to get inundated with emails from the platform. So just be sure to take some time to look through that. All right, and then the last thing I'll talk about here is the organizational sign-up. This is important for a few different reasons. In addition to the value inherent in creating a space for organizations to come together, as a member organization of the FSLN, your organization will be able to post events. They'll be eligible to apply for the organizational capacity building mini grants, and it will also give them an opportunity to gain national exposure. As an individual associated with a member organization, you yourself become eligible to access the services mentioned previously, such as the scholarships and mentorship program. To sign up in an organization, we recommend that you and your team identify a point person who will act as the FSLN point of contact. They'll be able to log in and access the organization sign-up page under members, and you'll go through a similar sign-up and verification process. All right, so that covers the key points of this platform. We've developed some documents to help make your experience with the FSLN a bit easier. They include a how-to for the platform, an FSLN calendar with key dates, and an FSLN handout overview form. These can be found on the platform, and we'll also be sending them out after the webinar. And of course, I'll also be here to support you and answer any questions that you have along the way. And all right, I think that's all I have to share with you guys. And Susan, I will pass it back to you.
Great, thanks so much, Annalena. And I think y'all will all find that it's a really user-friendly platform. And there's a couple other features in there that we didn't really go into around courses and events and such. So we encourage you to get in there and explore and let us know any questions that come up or challenges that you run into as you start engaging with the platform. So real quickly, I just want to highlight a couple of the upcoming opportunities that after this webinar will become available and can be accessed via the platform. So the first round of mini grants and scholarships opened today with applications closing on March the 1st. And I did see a question in the questions box about whether or not there would be future rounds. Yes, so this is the spring round. We will be doing another round in the fall and really kind of covering about 4 or 5 months worth of activities. So if you have an activity that you know that you want to be doing with your team or individually later in the year, just get on the website and check out the different application windows for those opportunities. As Andrew had said, the mentorship program application window also opens up today and has a shorter time period for applications. So it does close on February the 15th. So please get in there and apply ASAP. And in terms of the mentorship program as well, this is the first round of mentorship. We aim towards scaling that program up. So we really wanted to learn from this first round, work out some of the kinks around coordination and such, and just really figure out our systems, and then scale that up in the fall and for next year and in future years. So please go ahead and get in there ASAP. The spring series of the Nonprofit Bootcamp gets rolling this month, or next month, sorry, with Demystifying Strategic Planning with Tamara Jones. The registration links are available in courses and stories on the platform. And again, this will be the first series of Nonprofit Bootcamp. We already have some ideas in the hopper for the fall series, but really encourage you to reach out to us and look at kind of content for future series. And that leads kind of to my next main point. We really want to hear from you. This community of practice is really about serving you, and we have created some great content to get it going, but we want the future of this initiative to be guided by those that it's meant to serve. So please reach out to us and send us your ideas and your hopes and dreams for this network. You're all looking at this with fresh eyes, and so we're really excited to hear what you think we might be able to do through this space, and especially in thinking about the platform as a tool that can be used by our movement, not just this network, but by other partners and other networks. And that really leads into the second point, that we are actively seeking opportunities to connect and collaborate with other local, regional, national networks and communities of practice. We recognize that there are a lot of other organizations out there that are focusing on different areas, providing technical expertise and professional development opportunities and capacity building for different kind of sectors of food systems professionals. And we are really interested in doing some network weaving with y'all. So please do reach out to us. And finally, we'll be meeting up at the Wallace Center's National Good Food Network Conference in March in New Mexico. We'll have an in-person meeting there and would love to connect with you and hear about your ideas and really get a finer point on where we can go with some of this content development, and really keeping this peer-to-peer learning and collaboration at the heart of this community of practice, and recognizing that, again, there is tremendous wisdom and expertise within this community, and we just want to create ways for y'all to get together and share that with one another. And so one of the first places we'll be able to do that in person is in New Mexico. But also, as Andrew was saying, through our food systems leadership retreats, it's another great opportunity to connect in person and really build relationship that then we can carry on throughout the year, through the platform and in our communities and our day-to-day work. So, all right, I think we are right here at time for Q&A. I think I'm going to call in my buddy Jeff to help me out and bring out some of the questions.
All right. First, that was great, Susan. First, I want to let you know that here's the web address here, and I will be updating that page right after the webinar. So, and we'll also send out the slides and this link to your email after the webinar too. So, several questions about that. Okay, first question is, are AmeriCorps vistas that are associated with nonprofits be available for the mentorship program?
Yes, we all just looked at each other. We're like, absolutely. And I did see a couple of other questions briefly as I checked through about some particulars around if you're from a public benefit corporation or whatever. I mean, let's talk. And one about volunteers and board members for organizations. I think the key point here is that you're working and associated with nonprofit community-based organizations. There is a kind of a domain of information and interests and needs around community-based nonprofit organizations that we're just trying to keep this community of practice defined so that the content that we develop and share is really relevant to the group. So I think that's the main point. But absolutely, I think AmeriCorps Vista is a great example of the kind of emerging leaders that we want to support through this project.
Right, great. Is there a limit to the amount of people who can participate in the community of practice per agency or organization?
Not at all, and we welcome, the more the merrier. I think it actually would really benefit an organization to have multiple members as part of the community of practice, because you can, take this into real time in your teams to be able to examine some of the tools that you learn, discuss them. I would really encourage teams at organizations to participate in the nonprofit bootcamp series together, for example, because then you could really work on the tools together. You could do the class, then follow up in the group office hours, then line up a one-on-one coaching session with one of the trainers to dig in even deeper for your organization. So I think that it would actually really increase the value of participating by having multiple members of one organization be a part of this.
Maggie wants to know what the best way is to offer feedback about what she and others would like to see as part of this.
I would encourage people to either send an email to us at that FSLNinfo@winrock.org, or to share it on the platform. I think that that's also a great place for us to start a conversation. You'll see that in the stories section that I put a kind of what is this thing kind of post in there about the platform, and I think that's a good place to say some of your ideas and share back feedback. So, we can share with you our phone numbers, we can line up times to talk, and, just again, we're really interested in kind of allowing this community of practice to evolve and grow and change as we become more kind of closer to the community and understand what the specific needs and interests are. We feel like we have a pretty good basis of understanding for getting started, but as we know, this work is really dynamic and new things come up, and so we want to be able to adapt and respond to those as they arise.
Great. Relevant to communication, would you be open to a discussion group on food system communications?
Sure. Yeah. Let us know what your idea is and vision is for that group. And your interest in curating it. I think that that's a really important point here, is that for the groups, any new groups that we create, we want to make sure that we kind of have a point person who can take responsibility of just keeping content relevant and keep it alive. So I think that's really just one of the kind of key considerations there. But please, reach out to us, give us a couple of ideas on what that might look like, and we'd be happy to support it.
Great.
And again, I just want to add that this is at no cost. We've worked really hard this last year, many hours of blood, sweat, and tears to pull this together, and have identified a platform that is going to work for us for the long term, and can host thousands of members within it, in many groups. So we really want to utilize this and leverage this resource to support multiple communities of practice. And it's also something that the Wallace Center is going to be rolling out for other initiative areas, for the Food Hub collaboration, and the National Good Food Network and others. So you'll be seeing a lot more of this platform, but we're really rolling it out with the Food Systems Leadership Network first. And so this is a great opportunity to help shape and learn from this first experience, and really see what we can do with this platform.
Yeah, it is really exciting. There are a lot of specific questions, and really a lot of questions, which is wonderful. We are going to commit to answering as many of the specific questions. We'll lump some questions together, but we'll post the answers to these questions alongside the recording of the webinar, which should be up within a couple of days. So if we don't get to your question, apologies, but we will. So even if it's not live. There was a question about scholarships for the NGFN conference in Albuquerque, and there is a method for applying for scholarship. So there are no travel scholarships, but there are registration scholarships that are possible. I believe the URL is wallacecenter.org/NGFN conference. Should get you to information about that.
Yeah, I just want to add a finer point to that you will see on the application page for the scholarships that they're not to be used for Wallace Center events. So these are for other opportunities outside of the Wallace Center. So as Jeff was saying, we have a separate process for scholarships for the NGFN conference.
Should people be registering as individuals or as organizations, or both on the platform?
I'm going to pass that over to Annalena to answer.
Sure.
Hi. Well, I think it's easiest at first to register as an individual, and then after chatting with other members of your organization, to then sign up as an organization. I would identify one person to be that point of contact for the member organization sign up. But the benefit of having your organization as well as individuals associated with that organization as members of this platform are to access all the resources or all the different services that are offered. So the question or the answer is really yes, both, but do your individual profile first and then probably do the organizational profile second.
And Annalena, if you'll stay unmuted, there's another question here that I believe you can answer well, which is there a process for us to introduce others to this network?
You will be able to send invitations out once you become a member, either as an individual or as an organization. There is that application on your profile page.
Great. All right.
Or alternatively, you can, sorry, I'll just jump in one more time. You're also able to, feel free to share this link out and, forward on the email that we send you all after this to anyone who may be interested, because that's another way to spread the word.
Yeah, good. There are a couple questions about some other networks that exist, and how if combinations, or what the current status of working together, or coordination, complementing each other. I'm trying to mush together about 3 questions on that.
Okay, so I'll do my best to answer that question. I mean, yes, as I had mentioned through the presentation, there are other networks that have kind of a similar domain, specifically around professional development for food systems practitioners. And I think the first one that really comes to mind is the North American Food Systems Network, which is a very large tent for all different kinds of community-based and farmer organizations and academics and policymakers and a wide breadth of people who are working in food systems. And I think that there are opportunities for us through the Food Systems Leadership Network to be able to feed into NAFSIN's training and certification program, for example, with some of the nonprofit specific content that we're developing to be able to provide that kind of content into those greater networks. And I really don't see, any competition between these networks at all. I really see just opportunities for increased engagement and collaboration, and being able to encourage members of different networks say, hey, we don't have resource for that, but these other folks do. And I find that we do that a lot here at the Wallace Center, is, that kind of referral and connecting across the country and across different networks. And really being able to say that's not our domain of expertise, but you should talk to XYZ to be able to connect into those other kinds of resources. I mean, one of the organizations actually that comes into mind here that has a lot of similar kind of areas of work, but still distinct, is like New Entry Sustainable Farming Project, for example, is doing a fantastic job of cultivating communities of practice around different USDA programs that are available to nonprofit community-based organizations. And we're really looking forward to connecting with them. Actually, we have a call this coming week to really explore what that kind of collaboration might look like. So when we say that we're, it's interested in connecting, we're sincere about that. And I think that, network weaving is something that takes time to understand and to kind of bring it together. But I feel confident through the conversations that we've had with various networks over the past number of months and that are coming up soon, that we'll be able to do that in a way that is empowering to people at all levels of this movement. So I hope I'm answering that question. I know it seems a little bit vague. I mean, everything about network weaving is kind of vague and a messy, beautiful process. And I think that, what's to be celebrated here is that we have amazing resources available to people who are working on this. And we know anyone who's working in this space knows that we need them. This is really hard, and there are different areas of expertise for different parts of the work. And, even within the Wallace Center, we have very different domains of work from, my colleagues who work very specifically on food safety and know all the different resources and technical assistance that's available for farmers and food hubs around food safety. I personally and our team, we don't know as much about that stuff, but we do know about organization, capacity building, leadership development, et cetera. So, I think it's really about being able to identify, who are the right leaders and spokespeople for different areas of expertise in this movement, and getting really clear on that. So, I think that that's maybe our next step in partnership with other networks, is getting really clear on what do you have to offer, what are your competencies and different resources that you have to share, and getting those clearly outlined so that then all these different networks can then network with one another and say, actually, you need to talk to NAFSIN about that, or you need to talk to the Wallace Center about that, or Heal Food Alliance, or the new fellowship program that's the revival of the Food and Society Fellows Program that Kellogg used to lead. There's a number of different initiatives, Young Farmers Coalition, et cetera. I mean, there's a lot of different networks that have different domains of expertise. So I think that, we're at a really exciting time for this movement. And ultimately, this really is about movement building. And I'm excited to see how we engage in that in the coming years.
Yeah. Amen. Diana and Tracy and a couple of others have asked how to best contact your team, and I just wanted to point out that on the bottom of this slide there is an email address for the Food Systems Leadership Network, the FSLN info@winrock.org. So that is your best start to communicate to the team, and then questions will be fielded. If you would like to contact Susan directly, she is susan.chempf@winrock.org. It should show up in your chat box, in the questions box there. Okay.
I'm actually putting all three of ours. I think we removed our last slide for some reason that had all of our email addresses on it. So I'm putting them here in the side, in the chat box.
Great.
Any other questions that we can answer now, or should we take these offline and send kind of an FAQ?
I mean, there are quite a few more questions.
Bring them. Keep them coming. How about we'll just go to for another 5 or 10 minutes?
Sure. That sounds.
I know our intention here was to not go for the full 75 minutes. So we'll just keep answering questions and stop at 3:30.
Sure. Okay. There's a question here about if there are currently any plans for local chapters or affiliates.
That is an awesome question, and something that's just emerged really in the last couple of weeks, and really excited to explore what that might look like. Yes, yes, and yes. I think, the groups is one of the areas that could really help to kind of bridge that connection between a local chapter and the larger network. So I think that's one kind of tactic for getting that going. Really interested in whoever has kind of pitched that question to get in touch with us, and let's explore what that might look like. I know that there are some local networks and kind of smaller cohorts of organizations that are already trying to build some relationship and resource around organizational capacity building. And I think that this is a really excellent opportunity to connect those local networks into or with resources and training such that we'll be providing through Food Systems Leadership Network, and also to kind of help us drive content and inform the greater network. For example, if there was a New Orleans-based cohort that wanted to have a group and then be able to feed information up to the larger network and say, hey, down in the Deep South, this is what we're seeing as our areas of need. Are other areas also seeing this? And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for building those kind of nodes within this larger network.
And when you say a group, you're talking about a discussion group on the online platform. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think another way too is by pulling in physically a group to connect around this, and we could look at hosting a Food Systems Leadership retreat in partnership with a local network or local cohort. So really, you can hear the way that we're talking about this. It really is about evolving with the community and allowing this network and this community of practice to go where it needs to go. And I think that there's a lot of exciting opportunity, with the resources that we have right now to put into this, and what our vision for this for the future, it just gets me really juiced up. I'm excited to carry this forward for the long term.
Right. This is great, and I see there are other people who are interested in the local chapter idea. You can continue to chat in or email us if you are interested in being a local host of a group or a local chapter, that's great. We knowing the resources and the interests of the network allows us to do our job better.
Mm-hmm. You know, one thing just real quickly I want to point out too is that I know that there's a number of kind of technical assistance providers and organizational capacity consultants and you know, different service providers that are listening in today. And I think that, you know, this is also a really great opportunity to share your expertise with a lot of people across the country. And so I want to just give a specific shout out to those who are listening in who may have, you know, have developed like a fundraising training or whatever it may be around this domain of practice. If you're interested in, you know, providing some training and support to this group of nonprofit community-based professionals, please reach out to us and let's dream up what we can do in creating more content and resource and opportunity.
There was one other question that I want to make sure I got in here, which was a little bit more detail on the need for that third gathering location. How, what is it that you're looking for? People know how to contact you, but is there a formal application process? When are there spaces that you require? You know, just some sort of guideline. How many people would be expected to attend?
Great, yeah, I can answer that. I mean, we're really kind of exploring where we could have the next one because we did the first retreat in Detroit, the second one in New Orleans, and we'd really like for the third to be somewhere in kind of middle America and rural America. And I think what we need is a space where we can have about 25 food systems professionals, you know, be able to stay together. So I think, you know, some kind of retreat center or, you know, just a really big house where everybody can stay. And also, you know, with a food systems activity underway in the area. I mean, one of the key parts of this leadership retreat is learning journeys to community-based organizations and really kind of engaging with them with fresh eyes around what kinds of systems approaches they're using to their work and being able to connect in really unique and creative ways. And so I think, you know, the kind of the requirements are, you know, having some food systems activity in the community so that there's a couple of different kinds of organizations that we could visit and connect with. And also, you know, that it would be accessible enough to people from surrounding region and states to be able to get there, whether they're driving in or if they need to fly in, you know, from throughout the region. We're really wanting to make these accessible and not too expensive in terms of being able to get there. Once you're at the retreat, the actual retreat itself is covered, it's free. And there will be an application process to participate because we really want to make sure that we have a diverse group of leaders, emerging and seasoned leaders, different ages, different backgrounds, different perspectives, different points along the good food value chain. It just leads to a really rich dialogue and learning that we experienced back in Detroit, and we were very intentional about the application process and making sure that we had a very diverse group. So we'll take care of that part. What we're really looking for is a local partner who can help us connect with community-based organizations and find those kind of the logistics, helping us to work out the logistics of bringing in a group to do this work together.
Well, good news, Veronica wants to host you in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. That's awesome.
Okay. All right. I think we should stop there. This is fabulous. We've gotten several people extremely enthusiastic and giving their thank yous. South Dakota is also welcoming you, and as is rural Maine. So there you go. Kansas.
Right on.
Um, everybody
That's great.
guys. That's wonderful. All right.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Jeff, for being our back-end support today with the webinar, and to Annalena and Andrew for all of the work that they have put in these past number of months. I also want to give a shout out to our colleague, Elizabeth Atwell, who's also been contributing a lot to the development of this project. And just thank the Wallace Center for the support and for having the vision for creating this. And we're just really excited to now carry it forth and open up the gates to participation. So please, join us, follow that link to the Community-Based Food Systems site at the Wallace Center's website, and you'll be able to get to the new community of practice and become a member of the Food Systems Leadership Network today. So thank you.
15 minutes. All right. Thank you all.
All right. Bye.